welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. Well, we told you we're going to continue to share life experiences, and I love to see that smile, Jess. So we try to give our guests the bang coming in. So, Jess, if you could tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then as you know, Sid is going to kick off that first question, and then we're going to go back and forth.
Yeah, so I'm Jessica King, known as Clairvoyant Jess in my business industry. So and actually I focus a lot on trauma healing based on my life experiences with trauma and connecting with departed loved ones. So when I went through some experiences of trauma, when it comes from death, also from addiction with my sister and having to help her through that process, along with abuse. I actually kind of, opened up the doorways to my mediumship and really found myself wanting to connect further to help people through their journeys and where they are going. How to put the pain down has always been, I guess, the way that I actually am trying to help people.
That is wonderful, and thank you again for joining us today. Now we, just like everyone else, always jump into the beginning. What was your home structure like, your household, your family members? Did you suffer any trauma in your adolescent years?
Not as much. I mean, I think every childhood, I don't think anyone comes out unscathed, right? I mean, but I mean, honestly, I could not say that compared to stuff that I know that others have experienced, my childhood was actually a good childhood. I do know that, I had a father that did have some issues with drinking, but that was really honestly some of the worst that I dealt with. And it wasn't ever anything that was really a horrific experience. All of the stuff that I experienced started coming when I became the component, which was stuff that I had to work through as I started kind of, getting out into the world. So the trauma did not come in my earlier years, not like what I feel like other people experience at all.
Now, I do just want to also add, did you come into your mediumship or see any, evidence of your mediumship as a child or earlier years on?
My memories are as early as 2 years old of seeing things that other people didn't see. And my family just told me that I had an overactive imagination, which is true. But it also was the fact that I did actually see people that other people didn't see. So it was, that would I say, if there was anything that was hard growing up is that I knew that I was seeing and experiencing things that others weren't experiencing, but my family didn't, because we're in the South, obviously, as I say, you can always understand with this accent that I am not from, that I'm from the South at this point, but they are much into the Bible Belt. So that's not accepted. You don't, that's not what you're allowed to do. So I a lot of times push down my gifts because it was pretty much told that it was not right. So I chose to kind of disconnect or push it down for many, many years of my life because I didn't know how to deal with it. And then, of course, my family didn't really accept it. So I just kept kind of trying to block it out. So that, I would say, if you have to deal with any of the life experience that was probably the most painful, was that. Because it did actually, even when I did finally actually come out of what I call the psychic closet, that is when I lost a lot of family and friends due to that situation, because people didn't either accept it, embrace it, or understand it. And that's okay. But it took a long time for me to actually get to that space. And it took a pretty bumpy road to get to wanting to just snatch off the mask that we put on in life to try to appease what is normal.
Okay, so I'm going to ask, before we get into it, I'm going to ask, since we're right here, and you mentioned that, how did it make you feel, your family and friends detaching from you because you were connecting with your ability?
Painful. Oh, that was awful. I mean, it was really harsh. It was something that definitely broke my heart. I mean, through a lot of it, because it's like, you always get told your family's the one that's going to be there. They're going to, the blood's thicker than water, all that, yada, yada. But honestly, though, I mean, it's not like, I think that this gift is not like a choice. It's not like what people think, that it's like, you're choosing, that we're chosen for this. I mean, I was born into it. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it. And so, but it was a very painful experience. And I had to go through a lot of that alone. And after a while, you kind of start to understand that even if I have to go through it alone, that's okay. Because this is what I was sent here to do. And I feel like it's more important for me to heal others and for others to be able to go through their life the way that they deserve, than for me to hang on to and cling to somebody that is not accepting of who I am.
Absolutely. Now, some people don't realize that, with spiritual practices and things like that, that most of them still, channel God through their work. So how, with the mixture of everything, how is your relationship with God, or, a higher being? How do you, mix that all in, or kind of balance it from what you've, been indoctrined to know versus what you are seeing or what you are experiencing?
When I really broke out, I guess, into my gift, I stepped really hard off into the spirit realm, and actually was not fully prepared for what all I was opening up. So I made it a mission at that point to really learn and understand not just Christian faith, but all faiths, and I guess in all, religions. So at this point, my belief is that I choose to accept and embrace all, because it's not my job to judge anyone for where their spiritual practice or path and belief system is. It's not, they have to find what brings them peace, so that they can actually go through in life the way that they need to. And I don't care what higher power that you choose to accept. I just want you to be able to know that you're not alone in this world. There is something from spirit that is a walking and guiding beacon for you.
Okay. All right. So I want to jump into the start of some of the traumas in your, I guess, adolescent years. I guess the start of when you start going through true traumas in your life.
Okay. Well, I mean, there was, I guess, a lot of it when I got, I guess, I feel like I went through such a constricted childhood, where it was just, everything was supposed to be, a specific way. I was in a very prominent family, so that things were always very much, this is the way things need to be. This is how you need to be. This is how you need to act. And so I rebelled a lot from that. And that rebellion actually led me to a lot of, partying and going out and doing, crazy and wild things at that point, just to try to figure out who I was. But through that figuring out who I was, I realized that wasn't figuring out who it was. It was a dangerous and slippery slope, which led me into abusive relationships and led me into situations that were extremely painful, that I got where I felt trapped in those situations and didn't know how to see my way out. And it took me many years to understand what I was doing to myself. There were so many people that I was out there in relationships with. I was trying to save them, when honestly I was trying to find someone to save me. And I needed to recognize that I had to kind of let go of anyone saving me and save myself.
Understood. Now, what with, the path that you were going down, what was, I guess, the most significant moment, where you knew that you had to make some changes?
It was my dad's death. Who me and my dad were extremely close. And I mean, when I say extremely close, I mean, we could actually walk into the room and like have an entire conversation without even saying a word. So, I mean, we just were very tight that way. So when he passed, the wheels started falling more off in my life from where things already were, which I was going through a divorce. My dad passed. And I was getting my sister into rehab, and that was all within like a 60 to 90 day period. So when all of those occurrences actually happened, what I call the blinders to my gifts kind of fell off, and I was not able to keep them up any longer. So I ended up at that point, seeing and getting and hearing more stuff than I'd actually experienced probably in a long time in my life, I guess, because I had put so much block up. But when all that happened, all the blocks kind of flew off, and there was no holds barred to the messages that were coming and the information that started kind of flowing.
Okay. So, you said you were going through a divorce. So you were going through an abusive relationship, which I guess caused the divorce.
Yeah,
Um,
it was definitely yes. It was not a healthy relationship at all.
okay. Are you open to talking about
Yeah,
the relationship?
absolutely.
Okay. So can you tell us, just to be transparent, for women that are in abusive relationships, some of the abuse that you went through during your marriage?
A lot of controlling, a lot of not being able to not being able to make certain decisions or do certain things without it causing issues. Being at certain points, there was a lot of situations that happened where it was after I'd had my son, and he became a different person, and it was very sad. It was very heartbreaking, very emotional situation. But he became a different man, and it was not the person that I actually had married. So, and when all of that happened, I dealt with things like, the physical abuse. I dealt with a lot of mental abuse. I mean, that was the majority of what the situation had become, was a lot of mental abuse where, you constantly didn't feel like you were enough. And that there was something that you did wrong. You kept trying to make things right when you couldn't ever seem to fix things.
Absolutely. Now, were there any instances of higher level abuse, or where you assaulted physically?
Yeah, there was some physical assaults, and predominantly it was revolving around like me trying to get my when I wanted to leave and leave with my son. So those were some of the harder moments. I mean, and I will say that it was no form of abuse is good, but I at least never went through any scenarios where it was like broken bones or anything like that. I think that there's some people that have gone through those extensives, but it doesn't, I guess, mute, or I guess make it any less. I think any form of it is soul breaking at some point or another. When you go through trying to be controlled, and someone putting their hands on you that you that just thought you could trust.
Absolutely. And a lot of turning points I've seen, come at the time of birth of children. So how
Mm-hmm.
was your pregnancy for you? Was that a better time in your life? Do you recall that being a good experience, or, was everything else an issue while you were pregnant?
There was a lot of issues during my pregnancy, but the biggest issue that was I went through extreme health conditions and concerns. So I was actually I was bedridden for almost 6 months of my pregnancy due to a lot of health issues. So it that definitely caused a lot of the stuff that I guess where it was a burden, and I think that it added burdens because we had owned a business together at that time, and I was unable to function or work in the way that we had been working at any point. So, I mean, it really became a very, it kind of started during that time of the pregnancy where things kind of really started getting in a different direction.
Wow. Um, so what was your breaking point to leave? Um, because I know you said he would get to fighting when you would try to take your son.
Mm-hmm.
So something had to lead up to that, and then we have this breaking point, like, I can't take anymore.
There was, well, and here's the thing, and I think this is the same with a lot of women that go through situations like this, is there was more than one breaking point. I mean, so it was like there was other times that I would, I'd left, but then I'd go back. And so the breaking point was my son telling me that, or son telling him that he shouldn't talk to his mommy and treat her that way. That was it. It was that one moment. It was that one statement.
Definitely is. That has to be a shock to hear.
Yeah, he was 2. He was
Yeah.
2. So yeah.
Yeah, then it's just like, if I can't, I need to have to stand up for myself if my child is trying to do it, and barely
Yeah.
knows what's going on. So I understand that completely. Now you did mention, at some point you were also responsible, for getting your sister into rehab.
Mm-hmm.
What were the circumstances that made that, responsibility fall in your lap?
Because there had been, well, first that was during my dad being in hospice. So that was, one. I mean, was that dad was in hospice. So since they had hospice in at that point, I knew that my mother already had a lot on her plate. They had already attempted to put her into a couple of other programs before, and they didn't work. And I think it was because of how much my parents loved my sister, but they chose to really try to. They would let her come home early, or they would listen to her saying, "I'm all better now, and it's I'm okay, and I should be able to come home now." And I saw all the things, all the stuff that she was doing that they weren't. I guess they were missing the signs for. They were missing, why things were missing at the house, or why certain things were not there any longer, or why she actually really needed money. And so they were not in the capacity to understand the mind of an addict. And so I just told them, I was like, one, you've got too much going on, and two, someone's got to step into this and deal with her with a way of love, but also understanding that she can't manipulate her way out of this situation again.
So, what are some of the things that you went through trying to help your sister? Because I can only imagine the weight on you, or sometimes we go through a kind of abuse ourselves, putting us in certain situations because
Mm-hmm.
we're taking that burden on us, and it can be a lot for us.
It can.
So, what are some of the things stepping into place to try to get your sister on the right track, or holding her accountable that
Well,
you
so I lived in Newnan, which is a little town south of Atlanta at the time, and my sister was down in Columbus. It's about an hour away. So I actually I planned an intervention with some family and friends of hers to have a discussion about what she was doing, because she had been spiraling for a long time, and I felt like she needed to kind of face what was happening. And when so everybody took a moment and kind of just told her what she had been doing to them for what everything that she was doing. And at the end of it, I told her that she had two choices. I was going to take her to a homeless shelter, and she would not be in contact with family ever again, or or I'd take her into rehab, and that I would, and she had to sign over a power of attorney to me until she was through a program and sober. So it was probably one of the longest 24 hours of my life when I did that. So because we put her, I got her, I didn't realize how hard that would be. I didn't really make any plans to that. Yeah, the only plan I had was we're going to do an intervention and let's see what happens. And then I realized it was a lot harder to get somebody actually into a facility. So it actually ended up resulting in me driving or spending on 24 hours on the phone to be able to find a facility to take her. And that was literally a 24 hours straight. I was calling, trying to find places while I'd left her in an ER at a hospital for them to hold her, so that I knew that she was at least safe and not doing anything until I could get her to a facility.
Goodness, must have been a lot. I'm certain.
It was.
I'm
It
certain.
was very much so. And then after she got out of the programs that she went through, she came and I had her move in with me, because I told her she could not go back to the same city that we lived in or that we grew up in, because I felt like that she needed to break away from that environment to be able to stay clean. And she is still to this day clean.
I was just
what was her drug?
her.
Yeah, I was going to ask too really quick. What was her drug of choice?
Anything that wasn't nailed down, but it didn't involve a needle.
Okay. Yep. Straightforward, but yeah, that was my next question. Is she doing well? And
she's doing amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she actually runs and does a lot of leadership now in programs, so that to kind of, I guess, speak of her story and her sobriety and trying to help others that are still very new on to that journey. So we're looking at, I think, right at 10 years.
Congratulations to her.
Yeah.
Yes, for her dedication to that. Now, with that being said, with things being moving along in a decent direction, what was your mind frame like at that time? Was it, more so these are keeping you busy from, dealing with your own stuff, or, was it like a sense of empowerment? Like, hey, I'm actually getting stuff done. I'm being useful. Like, what did all that responsibility do to you or for you?
I'd say at first I thought I was getting things done, and I was making sure that I was taking care of things, and I was taking care of everyone. But then I realized when it wasn't my sister, it was somebody else. So if it wasn't my sister that I was needing to save, it was somebody else that was in an abusive situation or in a substance abuse situation. It was some other, I guess, fire that they were going through, that was a dumpster fire in their life, and I needed to go and save them. And that was always my thing, that I would just, always said I was Captain Save-A-Ho, because I would always be after saving somebody. And I realized very quickly that the only reason I was trying to save all these people is because I was needing someone to, again, save me. And so that's when I really took some hard steps back, because I was also kept on seeming to get in with relationships that were some sort of toxic, whether they were physically abusive or emotionally abusive. So I really did put myself in what I like to call a spiritual timeout.
And so through the relationships, you said you've went through abusive, emotional, just different kinds of relationships. And a part of what we try to do is help others through life experiences so that they can see the signs and what you have been through. I want to jump in for the abusive relationships. I guess the physical abuse piece of it.
Right.
What was like, and I can't even weigh that one will be worse. All of it's bad, right?
All it sucks.
Yeah, all of it sucks. So through some of your abusive relationships, the physical piece of it, what was the worst physical abuse that someone did to you, and what measures did you take or to do to get out of that?
I mean, it was for some reason, it always was strangling, was always the thing. So that was the, getting choked and hit. So that was always the thing that happened. And I should have seen the red flags. I think the red flags are so prominent if we will pay attention to them. That they'll tell you, when you don't need to even step further into that relationship from probably date 1 or 2, if you actually pay attention to some of the things that we can actually see as those triggers or signs. But I've dealt with it was protective orders, because a lot of them became stalker is what I was dealing with. I mean, and I had to especially the last one was a dangerously, insanely into stalking. So I couldn't do anything, go anywhere. I mean, he would create new phone numbers, he'd change the phone number. He would drive by the house. I mean, I had a kid, so I mean, it was and it was way out of control. I mean, to the point that I feared being outside of my home.
Wow. And how did it all kind of just come to a head, or how did you, get out of that space?
Well, it was my house, so I told him to get out. And that was easy, thankfully, on that situation, because of the fact that they'd not gone long enough to where there was much there at my house that he could claim that he lived there. He had his own place. And then, of course, I got the police involved and got a protective order. And sadly enough, I also reached out to his parents, and let them know, because I was like, you need to get control of him. I'm not going to do this.
Wow. And how long stalking you? What are some of the things that he did stalking you? Like, where did he show up? What did he say? What did he do?
That was the weird part, is he never said any. He would always stand back. I mean, but he would just do this, like, where it would make you feel like really, really uncomfortable. So, I mean, it would be things like, I had a back porch that I used to like to sit on at that house, and I would see him, circling the house. And I mean, because you could always see someone on the street behind you, because of the way the yard sloped. And I could see him coming by, in the front of the house. I mean, and I would see him like at the gas station that was down the street, but it was always like he'd kind of keep a little bit of a distance, but it was still that, but then he would start, like, as soon as I would see the vehicle, he would start incessantly calling. And that, when it would be, even if I didn't answer the phone, it would be those nasty voicemails and those, terrible name calling, and, telling you, all the things that you're horrible and how you're not good and how you're worthless, and all the things that they want to say to try to make you feel like it was your fault. I mean, that you caused this.
Now, was this your son's dad?
No, this was the one. This was the last. No, this was somebody else that was that I had dated after, and that was the one that and it was awful. And that was when I decided to put myself in the timeout. And I was like, I'm going to heal what's broken in me before I start into another relationship. Well, that's been about 6 years ago now. So it's been taking a while for me to actually choose to. I've done a lot of work on me to understand what it was that I was drawing to. Because that's the thing is, I mean, I had to recognize, even though it's not my fault, there was something of the relationships that I was drawing to that I had to recognize that I was drawing to toxic and relationships with red flags. And I needed to understand, why was I drawing to people that, even after I saw the red flags, and I thought it was like the circus or some shit. It was not the circus.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Now, were there any, or was there any like tug of war with your son's father, with like custody or things like that? Or were you, pretty much able to move freely, how you needed to?
Pretty much we moved freely with that one. I mean, because I was the one that at that time paid for the divorce and everything else like that. There were some situations in the earlier on where there was some back and forth issues, and but it was I want to say 2 or 3 times where I dealt with some situations where he, I guess, felt like he was losing control, and he wanted to show me, that he could get control through him.
I'm on mute. Sorry. I was going to ask, why do you feel as though you were drawn to toxic relationships? Because sometimes I feel like, even within myself, I was drawn to a lot of toxic relationships, but it was something within myself that I had to work on personally. What was it personally that you felt as though that you had to work on to not be drawn to these relationships? Or if you were put in that position to say, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'm good. So I think that what I've learned, the biggest thing that I've learned is that I am actually a natural healer. I mean, so not only am I a medium, I'm actually, I do intuitive healings. So with emotional and traumas. So I think that there's a twofold to that. One, I feel like that to go through, you have to go through some of those experiences to help others through those experiences. But as a twofold, though, I think that I also drew to the broken, because I felt like that I was meant to fix them, when I had to realize that those are not the people that I'm meant to fix.
That would make sense. That would make sense for sure.
Yeah.
Now, at what point did you jump fully into or fully immerse yourself into your mediumship, or, feel like I'm no longer gonna, pretend like it's not here?
Right. I did a lot of it with like friends and stuff, starting about 11 years ago, where I would do it, with just my friends or people that I met, or, it was kind of that in a safe zone. But as of 7 years ago is when I took it professionally. So, but it was right at 11 years ago as to when I started just doing it to people that I knew, and I just had to deliver the messages to them.
I was going to also ask before we go. I know you said your parents pushed back your family and friends, and parents was like, no, pushed your ability down. Did your dad ever accept, before he passed away, did he accept that you had ability to connect with other people?
Dad was probably more understanding of it than any, because his my grandmother would have visions. So they, and then Dad had the gift of what I guess dreams, and so he would get messages through his dreams of stuff that would come. So I don't, but he never knew me as, I guess, clairvoyant Jess, as the full on medium work that I do. But he's come to me since he's passed, and we've had conversations about it. So I know that he's accepted who I am, and he was actually the one that said that I was supposed to come out to do the work that I'm doing.
So do you think when you were younger, when he was like, no, he didn't want your mom to know that he had an ability as well, and his mom, do you
Well, the
think he
fun,
was
or
hiding it?
I guess the strange thing is that his is my mother also. As I've as this all kind of came unfolding, my mother's got her own intuition also, so it comes from both sides of my family. But mom, what she finally kind of, I guess, recognized is that it was her fear of understanding it and not knowing how to help me through it. So it was more, that's where that was with that situation. So um, I think that they all kind of, I guess, recognized that that was there in them, but it was just more of, they didn't know how to deal with it, control it, or understand it. So let's just use this as our, maybe a scapegoat, or a way to just kind of not deal with it or face it.
And how were you able to, kind of hone in your skills, figure it out, how to control it, how to make it work for you?
I've done a bunch of work with that. So, I mean, I've actually, I went and got my bachelor's in metaphysics. I've gotten ordained in the ministry. I've gotten 5 masters in 5 different healing modalities. I immersed myself in education. And then I also fully believe that my spirit guides and the universe and, God has aligned me with mentors throughout this entire journey to this really have been very impactful. Some of those mentors have really helped me through understanding what it was that I was experiencing and what it was that, I needed to do. And then, of course, like I said, I went and did a lot of higher education because I felt like it's such a hard industry to be able to find what I say is legit and good information, because there's so much misinformation out there about it. And I don't think it's out of ill intent. I think that some of those people actually just don't understand how to give the 1, 2, 3 basics. And so that's been a really strong passion of mine, is to help others that are gifted to understand their gifts, and also to understand how to kind of start controlling them and having a better control of their path. Because I do believe that there are a lot of people that are in addiction. I think that a lot of people that are that have been in abusive situations and things like that, I believe that a lot of them do have their own gifts, and it becomes one of those things that they need to actually struggle, or they struggle with wanting to kind of cover it up themselves because they don't understand it. Sorry.
Okay. I wanna come back. I try not to jump, but I want to jump back into something real quick. When you were a child,
Sure.
you mentioned that you rebelled a lot through partying and different things. So I just, as a child, because I was a troubled child too, and there's reasons, but this is not about me. So
Yeah.
it's always that like push. What are some of the things when you partied and you rebelled against your parents? What are some of the things that you got into besides partying? Was it drinking,
Oh yeah,
maybe
drinking.
crime,
I mean, drugs. I mean, I did.
drugs?
Drugs. Oh yeah, but and I guess that the only thing that always made me so sad was with my sister's situation. Made it so hard to understand though. With me was the fact that I was able to put stuff down and walk away.
And that's what I was going to ask. Like, were you able to
Yeah, I mean, I
walk
could go
away?
and party and do things with my friends and stuff like that. They're so-called friends, at that time, and then and then put them down and go back to regular life.
Okay.
So mine was a little bit easier to, I guess, to still manage a normal life. It was, I guess, just function. I guess sometimes I consider that a functioning addict, I guess is what you would say. I mean, because even though I mean, I could walk away from it, it's an addiction if you're still doing stuff to kind of, I guess, alter your mind at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what were some of your drugs of choices? Did you and your sister have any similarities?
I mean, oh yeah, because I mean, we did, I mean, pretty regularly at that time, which I don't think is still with that being legalized, I don't even think that's a concern. But back then, of course, because this was so many years ago, you have to realize it was things like ecstasy was a big deal back then, was and acid. So I mean, that was really the things that we were the more kind of, I guess, the fun stuff, that is going to make it to where, you're going to be just having a laughing and just it's a lot of laughing. It was just more of that stuff that was going to kind of, I guess, set you free in your mind at that point, which again is because you're trying to alter it because you can't find that on your own.
Now, did you have any, how I want to put this, I want to say adverse reactions or just, a clash between, your abilities and the, hallucinogens in a sense? Like, did they ever speak to each other, or you have any like significant moments with the mixture of the two?
There was one situation, and I would say that it was, but the clash was because of me, and it was due to playing with a angel board, which is really just a Ouija board. So with the roommates and the girls that I lived with at that time, and so we played with that, and during all of that time, we all bartended together and everything else like that, and so it opened up a lot of doorways and a lot of activity started happening around me. So, I mean, it would be like, doors opening and closing. You would see apparitions in the house. I mean, it was intense activity that started actually spiking during those times.
And what was that like? Was it, at that point, were you taking on the face of, just one of the girls being curious about things, or did they know that, you had a little bit more of like experience and gift behind what you were doing?
I think there was just an acceptance of the spirit realm at that time. So I don't think it was ever really just discussed. I mean, because it was, but it was, they definitely understood. And they a lot of times, because of the stuff that I know that I look back now and realize that I manifested because of who I was, because of my gifts, that it opened up those doorways a lot further than what it probably would have for a regular situation. But funny enough is, I mean, we still are all friends. And, when I actually came out of the closet, they all were like, well, this totally makes sense. So they understood and said that wasn't surprising.
So did it freak them out? And I guess you were calm. They didn't understand what was going on, but maybe you understood a little bit because of your ability.
I think that went on that, some of the stuff that started happening around that house actually was a little next level. So that I think it was a little alarming for all of us, just because of the fact that it was, I'd had spirits that showed up as a child. A lot of them just though would kind of be standing there or walking around. And these were more active and angry. In some of their energy. So, like lights busting in the house. And I had one of them that like wanted to, would get in bed with me. And I was like, this is a whole situation. I don't want people that are not living in my bed. So those became actually a little bit more. They would also bang on walls and things like that. So those became a little bit more aggressive at that time.
So you opened up spirits and they were literally, y'all all lived in the same home.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all actually opened up a
portal
warfare in the home. So how long did you stay in there?
For a couple of years. And then that's when I realized that in general I needed to leave the city also. I needed to leave that area in general, not because of anything with them, but because of all the stuff that I had just, I guess, gotten into, and I had kind of, I guess, created within myself, the person that I had become. And so that's when I picked up and I left and moved towards the Atlanta area so that I could change where I was at and also who I was and start to kind of, I guess, start a new phase of my life.
Okay. Do you think that house is haunted?
Oh, as shit. Oh, yeah. But I mean, a lot of the houses that I live in will be haunted, but that's because, I mean, but that one definitely had some intense activity. But I mean, people always say, you know, if I was living in that, I would move. And I'm like, well, when you're a medium, where are you going to move to? I mean, they're going to follow you. I mean, so there's never been a house that I've gone to that hasn't had activity, and it's because of they follow the light.
Absolutely. Now with you know, you pretty much getting it honest from relatives on both sides. Have you seen any abilities in your son?
Yes, very much so. My son started channeling at the age of 2, so absolutely, he has got them. Now he is in that same mindset now, where even though he knows that I accept it, and obviously have always told him that it's okay, he doesn't always want to open up to it. And I'm like, it's fine, babe. But I mean, and I'll see him open up to it every once in a while. But I mean, he's that age where it's just, you know, and I'm like, look, just know it's there. Don't ignore it, and understand that, you know, if you got questions, you know how to, you know what, you know, I'm here.
Did it scare him? Like was his reaction like different than yours? Like,
I think that it did scare him with some of the stuff that that would happen around me and him, and then of course in general in the home. So I think that sometimes it became a little bit more than what he knew how to process at points. So, but that's okay. I mean, at least I was always open with him. I talked to him about it. I mean, and made sure that he at least understood that, you know, that's just who we are.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's crazy to think about how that happens, but that's a good thing. Now,
he doesn't think it's good all the time, especially when I I'm like, hey, don't go do that. And then he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, let's not be stupid here. We know what I'm talking about. Don't go do that. Okay.
Absolutely. Now, what was the moment where you realized you wanted to go into business yourself down this avenue? What was the spark? When did it happen? How did you make it happen?
The spark was not a spark. It was a shove on a gravel road, is what I like to call it. I had a career that was a really nice career. It was a good career. I was actually in a 6-figure job that was it was what I'd worked my entire career to get to. And my spirit guides kept telling me that I was meant to take to do this, that they wanted me to do this as and so I needed to help more people. And I kept telling them, no, I was good. I didn't want to. And I actually was terminated from my first ever corporate career in my life and lost my job. And so I launched the business out of 2 businesses out of necessity. And one of them being this, that I talk to dead people, and I can do things that other people, I guess, don't always connect into. Or I can refurbish furniture. And I found out that refurbishing furniture is a lot of work. And I didn't really want to do that full time.
okay. I don't know if y'all heard some tapping just a few minutes ago, but I did. I heard it in my hair. So it was like, boop, 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 boop. So
there was a tapping here, but I think it may have been the dog, but I'm not totally positive.
Okay, it sounded like a knocking. So
yeah,
didn't sound like a dog, but maybe, right? I was gonna ask because you have a show, right, where you actually go in and talk to
I did. I did a few episodes. Yeah. We haven't continued it, but I did do a few episodes of it where we would I get called into homes that are having activity, and then I would walk through the properties and actually see what I could get from their properties. So I would walk through and I would tell them about past experiences or things that had happened on their property that could have happened, some of them 50, 100, 150 years ago, that is why they were experiencing certain activity in their homes now.
Wow. So were you able to help them with the
Yeah.
activities in the house?
If they want me to, then absolutely. Yes. That is something that I enjoy doing, is to go into those, I go into the situations that most people want to get out of. So, because I think that everybody's home should be their haven and their peaceful place. And if it's being disrupted by spiritual activity from one reason or another, then I want to make sure that we clear it from what they're experiencing. So whether it be, I've had people that have had, I guess, poltergeist, or they've had, demonic activity and things like that, that they didn't know how to, if they were going to be safe in their homes.
Wow.
Now, were there any, just off the top of your head, any significant readings that spoke out to you, or, that just kind of affected you moving forward, whether that's positively or negatively?
I don't think that there's any negative. That is everything is everything easy? No, but I think that there is. I think that everything is about everything in life is about the shadow and the light. So we can't have one without the other. So I think that all of every experience that you have, whether it's more you feel it's negative or it's positive, it's all the same, at least in my book. But there's been plenty of them that I guess that I've had that I feel like have touched my soul or touched my heart. And the interesting thing is some of the ones that are the most memorable for me are the ones that I actually just randomly gave to somebody that I was walking past. Whether it be, I did one for my dentist one time that she wasn't expecting, and I did another one for a lady that was in a store. I've done a lot of them where I walk past somebody in a store and I actually I had to tell them something, and those are sometimes some of the ones that touch my heart the most, because that was not expected. Maybe. Well, actually, I can guarantee it wasn't expected. They didn't expect somebody to come and talk to them about their dear Uncle Joe or whatever.
I want to ask, going really quick, going to homes, and you said you've experienced demons, and I've experienced it. Did anything ever, like a scenario, one that was freaked you out maybe the most, or you just were pulled back, and it kind of like just, you were like, whoa, I'm in this business, I'm doing this is like, I've never seen this before. Can you tell us one of I guess the situations of
my first major house clearing was probably, I guess, the definitely set the bar for the level of weird that can happen with certain things. And there was, I guess the interesting part about it is the amount of video evidence that we got from it when we did it. So there was lots of video evidence. And I actually, with that one, left the house with bruises, and I left the house with physical injuries from that house. So that one was definitely one that I guess taught me that I needed to really, that's when I started saying I need to actually educate myself further into what I'm doing here before I actually get myself into a situation that's going to be hard for me to see my way out of.
Did you feel the
physical activities?
Hitting you?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that one was it was an intense one. And it was very alarming, because I was seeing it was because when I went back, I actually saw certain things that nobody else saw, and then I went back to look at the videos. And the interesting thing was that they actually, some of them showed up in the videos at the exact times that I explained them, but you couldn't see them except for when you went back to the video, that you saw outlines of them, stuff that I was describing. So that was kind of weird and freaky and interesting.
I can imagine. So what are, I guess, your full scale of services, or what, I guess, what services are you able to provide with your clairvoyancy?
So I do obviously mediumship, which is where I connect with the departed loved ones, and then trauma healing is one of my my biggest services at this point. I help people put down the pain that you don't know how to actually put down. It's something that I've become very passionate about, especially those things that you kind of holding on to that you may have been in therapy, or you may have been seeing someone, or maybe you struggle to see someone because you don't want to bring it all back out again because you just want it to be gone. So I work with like taking that and actually healing that from, through different modalities of energy work. And then I also do intuitive coaching and development. So anybody that has spiritual gifts that wants to understand their spiritual journey, then those are really the three things that I focus specifically on.
Okay. Through all of this and your healing, going through your healing, do you need someone to talk to, like reading folks and just understanding? Because I can only imagine that's a weight on you as well, taking in everyone else's traumas and helping them. And I know you took a 6-year break to focus on yourself from this, and you're right back, like, helping others do the same. So is there are you getting...
So I talked to, I do have a really great support network that I've, if I need something I can actually reach out to in a different way than I probably have experienced in much of my life. But this is definitely a network of people that understand who I am, know what I do, and can listen and let me, and help me with direction whenever I get to those points. But I also learned a lot more balance in my life, where I will not over inundate my schedule with taking on so much for everyone else. I make sure that I kind of keep that balanced out so that I can not only take time to heal and help fill their cup, but I'll also take a step back to fill my cup. Like I was talking to you about earlier, where I do a bunch of gardening and things like that. I made those choices so that I could make sure that I'm also tending to my own garden and feeding my own spirit. And I don't allow my calendar to get so excessively over full that I don't take time to step back and actually work on myself and help myself also.
All right, Demetria, I don't know if you want to head into swap it.
Yes, absolutely. So we're almost at time, and we like to ask two things, Sid and I, before we close out. Is for me, can you give the audience advice on what helped you through your healing journey, especially like through helping others, going through domestic violence, addictions, just something that can help someone else that helped you or that you helped your loved one with?
Know your worth. No matter what someone else tells you your worth is, know your worth. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be whole. You deserve to be able to have a life that is of peace. And if there is anything or anyone that is disrupting your peace, then reach out for help. Know that you're not alone. Realize that there are so many others that can experience so much of what you've experienced also, that would be glad to help you through it. If you don't know someone or feel comfortable with someone, please reach out to my page. But I will say for sure that you're never alone. And I don't want you to ever think that you're alone through this life. We are sent here to have a human experience. And so don't run from the human experience just because of the bad experiences you maybe had in the past.
Absolutely. Now, we do like to call this part of the show shameless plug. You see all of your information scrolling across the bottom here. You can let our viewers know how they can contact you, utilize your services. If you have anything for sale that you need to draw traffic to, any causes you want to draw traffic to, you have the floor.
Okay. You can find me everywhere on Clairvoyant Jess. So the website is clairvoyantjess.com. You can book through my website. You can shoot. If you're going to send me a message, I do encourage you to probably do that through like Facebook, or you can do email, but I'm generally fastest responding through Facebook. If you have a question that you want to ask me, Really, honestly, I always say that you'll be led to me if I'm the right person to help you. So I don't plug any of my services. I just will say that if you need help and you've been struggling for a long time and you don't know what will work, then please let's have a chat and see if I can't help you out.
Thank you so much. You see Jess's information scrolling across the bottom. So please go follow her on your social media platforms. I love it. We want to thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast and sharing your life experience and your testimony to the audience. And hopefully someone that is going through similar situations, especially those that have abilities and that are confused and they don't know how to connect with their abilities, and people are downplaying their abilities. If you're really feeling something, you inside, you really, it may be true, because I have an ability too. So
yes, I know you both do.
Oh, I knew this was coming. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. Can you can really quick, because we want people just to see this. Can you tell us what you're feeling real quick?
You both have gifts. You always had gifts. You've always been. It comes through your bloodlines. Yours is going to be predominantly from your side of your mother. And coming from your mother's side of the family is what I'm getting with hers. But for some reason, yours is actually coming. I feel like it's almost both sides of your family. So yes, flip that. So yes, that's correct. So it's, but I think that y'all both have had experiences. I think that you both have had that, what a lot of people call the empath stuff, that you feel and have those sensations of those things in your life where you feel like you just had that gut instinct or knowing. But I also believe that there has been some experiences where y'all have seen some things at different stages and points in your life. But one of you has got a heavier issue or heavier thing with dreams. One of you has got a definite thing with dreams. I know. So yeah, I was about to say there's dreams are coming really heavy. I don't think that you're always understanding your dreams, but the dreams are there. And so you're misinterpreting some of them. And they say that you need to do a journal for that. But I feel like that there is a lot with both of y'all, as far as what you could do is actually way more powerful than what you actually are even aware of.
Whew, just got chills again. My whole body got chills. Yeah, I do have heavy dreams, and a lot of things come through my dreams. Sometimes I can connect with the dream. Sometimes it comes, and then when I wake up, it's like, and then something may happen a month, a year, or something later from a dream, and I remember it.
Yeah. I always tell people to recognize that dreams are symbolic, not literal often. So sometimes it will be literal, but the vast majority of the time it's symbolic. So you have to actually break down and understand the symbolism, but don't try to understand that symbolism through a dream journal, because that's just insane.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So if y'all need to reach out to how do you say it?
Clairvoyant Jess.
Clairvoyant Jess. Yeah. So if you need to reach out to Clairvoyant Jess, you have the information, or you can reach out to Sid or I. Will connect you to make sure you get there. So we want to thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken Podcast. And like we told you, we're going to continue to share life experiences. We're not going anywhere, and we will see you soon.